Hi everyone, this is part 2 of my series on how to use the iT32 with the X5 trigger to control multiple other flashes. In part 1 we went over how to use the iT32 on camera with the X5 trigger to control multiple other flashes. In part 2 we're going to go over how to use the iT32 off camera to control multiple other flashes. Now if you've been following along and already watched part 1, you may see some differences here. I made some changes because I thought it might be a little bit easier. So in part 1 we talked about using the iT32 on camera. And instead of labeling the flashes like number 1, 2, 3, and 4, I went ahead and just named them what they are. So this is the master flash when it's on camera, and it can be controlled in the menu here with the M. And then we have groups A, B, and C. As we scroll down, we can see the different lettering here. Also, I'm going to be using different flashes. So I'm still using another iT32 or a secondary one, but instead of like my TT350 and V1, I switched over to a V480 and an AD100 Pro. All right, now let's talk about using the iT32 off camera to control other flashes. However, before you take the iT32 off the camera, specifically off of the X50 trigger, you need to sync all of the flashes so that they're on the same channel and ID number. Now, generally, I don't like to use ID number. I turn that off because it's just a sub-channel. But I will make sure these are all on the same channel. So we're going to set the channel here first and then sync these others to be on the same channel. And it's very straightforward. So right now we are in transmitter mode. And we're going to go into the wireless menu here. And let's just pick channel, say 16. And then we're going to touch the sync button. So now we got the wireless sync icon there. Now we'll go to the first flash here. And this is in receiver mode, but we'll go ahead and hit the wireless button, and we'll hit the sync button. And now we're done. So now it's on channel 16. And we'll go ahead and back out of that. The V480 is very similar. Just go into the wireless menu, click on receiver, and then click on wireless and tap sync. And now it's done. And it's synced to channel 16, ID off. And then finally, the AD100 Pro. We'll go into the menu, go into the wireless menu, and scroll down to wireless sync. And we're done. So now we're on channel 16, ID number off. All right, now we can remove the iT32 off camera. I want you to notice that when I remove this off camera, this flash automatically goes into receiver mode. And I didn't see a way to change that default, but it goes into channel A receiver mode. So we actually have to put this back into transmitter mode, like so. And then now we have the M, A, B, and C here. So we're all set there. All right, now let's go into the second iT32, and it's already on group A, but we can change it if we want to any other group here by touching the letter. So we're going to leave it on group A. The V480, again, we just touch the letter. We want this to be on B to match the letter B here. And then for the AD100, let's go into the menu, click on wireless menu, and we're going to scroll up to group. Right now it's on group 4. We're going to scroll this over until it's to group C, and we're all set. Now, unlike when we're using the iT32 on camera, where we have a fully functioning trigger system and master flash, when we take the iT32 off camera and we put it into transmitter mode, we lose a lot of functionality and things get weird. First thing is, we lose TTL compatibility with anything that's not in group A. So this flash and this flash will have TTL compatibility, but groups B and C will not. And even if I change this around, like so, and I put this on group B and this on group A, I will have TTL compatibility here, but I'm going to lose it on the iT32 here, and it's still not going to work here. However, I can still control manually the flash power output on all of the flashes. So if I switch them all to manual mode, I can control the individual flashes. The other weird thing is, let me switch these back. Again, the master flash here, this one is disabled. So this is doing nothing. Even if I put this into manual mode and adjust the power output, this flash will not fire. So I like to turn this off just to kind of simplify my thought process when I'm setting up my lighting. The other weird thing is, if I dial in exposure compensation here, you'll notice that it's not changing here at all. Nothing's changed. However, if I put it into manual mode, I can switch it to manual mode. You can see I can change the flash output power for manual mode. And we already know B and C don't have TTL compatibility, so I'm going to go ahead and put those into manual mode. So I can do that. And you can see these both went into manual mode, and I can now adjust the power output. And I'm going to just go ahead and put Flash A or Group A into manual mode as well. So this is really the best way to work with the iT32 off camera to control the other off camera flashes. But keep in mind that this is still disabled. Now, the other thing is the X5 trigger has its own plus and minus buttons here to control exposure compensation for TTL and the power output for manual mode. I can still control the power output on the iT32, but it will not control the power output on any other Godox flash. So just keep in mind that the X5 only works with iT32 flashes. So if I had multiple iT32 flashes here, then I can control the power output on all of them at the same time. But when I only have this one and I'm mixing in other ones, these plus minus buttons can be very, very confusing in your lighting setup because it's not changing the power output on anything else. You have to use the iT32 trigger to do that. So I can change this. And if you look, nothing changed here. This is still at 1/8, and this is at 1/2 now because we changed it here. But I can go back in and resynchronize it by touching the screen on the iT32. So if you're going to use this as the controller, don't use the buttons here because it's not in sync, right? Now you might be thinking, when you take the iT32 off camera and the flash is disabled anyway, when this is in trigger mode, why not just leave it on camera so it can potentially become part of your lighting setup? And bonus, you maintain full TTL compatibility across all the different groups, A, B, C, and A, B, and C. Well, actually, when you use this off camera, and you have all the other flashes in manual mode because TTL is kind of a train wreck, it does offer one unique workflow that you can't really replicate with any other kind of system that I can think of. Now, I can't think of too many scenarios where I would do something like this, but maybe you can, and that's why I want to show you because it might be a lifesaver, who knows. But take this scene here. Let's say the subject here is roughly 10 meters away from the camera. Obviously it's not the scale. And then I have a 3 light setup. Each one is about 2 meters away from the camera. But I'm standing here near the subject and the lighting because maybe I want to, take a couple test shots and move the lighting around, take another couple test shots. But I can also control the power output of the individual flashes and see what those changes are going to look like using my app here. And I can do all that without having to walk back and forth from the camera, which is 10 meters away, right? So let's just do a test shot. So I set up everything at 1/16 power. So let's see how that looks. And I'm in full manual mode. The camera's at 1/100th of a second, f16, ISO 200. And let's do a test shot here. Okay, not bad on the first try. So what I need is a little more light on the front here. So I'm just going to move my light over this way a little bit, and that should be it. Maybe have the background lighting a little brighter as well. So I'm just going to make an adjustment to Group A. Let's make that about 2 stops brighter at 1/4. And the key light, I think we're okay. And the rim lighting, maybe I'll make the rim lighting just a tiny bit stronger. So that was on Group C. We'll just add 1 stop there. Okay, let's do one more test shot. And I'm going to move the light over a little bit. Okay, and that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to do one more thing. We'll just add a keyline filter because that makes it look more cartoonish. So actually I need to exit the app and then go into the camera, exit the Wi-Fi, put it into art filter mode and select keyline, and then go back into remote control. Now let's do one more test shot, and I think I was about right here. So as you can see, using the iT32 off camera can be a viable solution despite the train wreck that TTL is, if you want to control everything in full manual. Alright, I want to share with you a couple of tips because while I was doing this, I ran into a couple of problems. No big deal. But one is, you know how the X5, you can switch between TTL and manual by pushing and holding this button. So now I'm in manual mode, I'm back in TTL, and back and forth. However, I want this flash to control the iT32 in manual mode. So I have to make sure that I set this flash to manual mode using the X5 trigger, because if I leave it in TTL mode, it's going to stay in TTL mode and this flash is not going to be able to control this manually, even though I have it set here to manual mode. So put this into manual mode first, and now this will control this, and you can adjust the power output and everything, no problem. And then the other thing was, while I was holding the flash, I inadvertently touched the screen and changed it to TTL mode. And as I mentioned earlier, the iT32, when it's in transmitter mode, cannot control this in TTL mode. So make sure this is in manual mode. And then I would recommend, especially if you're hand holding, is to lock the screen so that you can hold the flash without accidentally changing any of the settings that the iT32 controller is not going to be able to change. So that's how you control off-camera flashes when the iT32 itself is off-camera, with a couple of caveats, right? The iT32, that's the trigger or controller, is going to be offline. You're not going to be able to fire it, and TTL is kind of a mess. Now in my next video, I'm going to show you how you can enable this iT32 to fire together with all of the other flashes at the same time, just using the X5 trigger all by itself on the camera. So be sure to subscribe so you get notified when that comes out. So if you like these videos and you want to support the work that I'm doing here, you can buy me a coffee or make a donation using the links below. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.